Hey everybody, welcome back to the Nth Design channel. My name is Nate, and today we're going to write a shell script that will perform an automated installation of MySQL 5.7 on Ubuntu 14.04. To do this, we're going to be using Vagrant, a tool that helps you configure and launch virtual machines inside your development computer. If you'd like to learn more about Vagrant, watch our previous video, Launching Ubuntu 14.04 with Vagrant 1.8. The process of performing an automated installation of a piece of software in this manner is called provisioning. We'll be provisioning MySQL 5.7 using a simple bash script, but there are many ways to accomplish the same goal. Many people prefer to use tools like Puppet, Chef, or Ansible to do this type of automated installation. Personally, I think using a bash script makes the configuration very readable and transparent. To begin, we need to create our provisioning script for MySQL. We're going to put the provisioning script in the todoapp.com project folder inside a new folder called bin, B-I-N. As we work through this video series, we'll add more provisioning scripts to the bin folder for tools like PHP and Nginx. Now, let's open the Atom text editor and create a new file. New. We're going to save this file to our todoapp.com project folder inside the bin folder, and we're going to call it provision mysql.sh. Now, like all good shell scripts, this file needs to begin with the shebang. So there's our shebang line. We need to tell the package manager that we're running in non-interactive mode. Some installers ask questions using the command line, but we won't be able to answer those questions because we're running this as an automated script. So all we have to do is set this environment variable. Next, we'll perform an apt-get update, and this is going to make sure that we have the newest package information from the Ubuntu repositories. And then we'll do an apt-get install. And we're using the Y flag to tell Aptitude to answer yes to any questions asked by the package installers. And we're installing the MySQL-server package. So let's make sure that that all looks okay, and it does. Next, we're going to exit the Atom text editor, and we need to open the terminal. We need to make our provisioning script executable. So let's go to our todoapp.com project folder, and we need to use the chmod command and use +X to set the executable bits for our provisioning script. So there it is. And that's it. Our basic provisioning script is complete. Now we need to tell Vagrant that we want to run this provisioning script each time we do a Vagrant up. But before we modify our Vagrant file to do that, I want to show you one of Vagrant's coolest features, and that's synced folders. So we're in the terminal, we're already inside our todoapp.com project folder, and what I want to do is see if our Vagrant box is running, and I can do that by typing Vagrant status. And it says, nope, it's not running, so let's type Vagrant up. Now, I'll fast forward through this so you don't have to watch it again. Now that our Vagrant box is ready, we're going to type Vagrant SSH to log into it. And from this command prompt, I want to perform a directory listing for the server root. Notice this Vagrant folder. Now that is obviously not a default Ubuntu folder. It's a special folder installed by Vagrant that gives us shared access to our project folder. In fact, if I go and look inside, there's our Vagrant file and our new bin folder. And if I were to look inside the bin folder, I'm going to see our MySQL provisioning script. So this is a very cool feature. Now that we've finished with this little detour, we'll open our Vagrant file and add some code to run that new provisioning script. So we'll open Atom, and we'll find our Vagrant file. Here it is. And we're going to add some code in this config section. We're going to type config.vm.provision. We're going to use shell provisioning, and we're using an inline script, and we're going to give it a path. The path is inside our Ubuntu box, so /vagrant/bin/provision mysql.sh, and we can save that Vagrant file. Now let's minimize the Atom text editor. Back at our command prompt here in the terminal, we want to make sure that our Vagrant box is not running. We need to shut it down and then restart it, and we can shut it down by typing vagrant destroy. When we do that, Vagrant will ask if we're sure. We say yes, and then we're going to type vagrant up again. Now I'll fast forward through the boring parts, but we'll come back to this as Vagrant is processing our MySQL installation. So here we see our apt-get update running, updating all of the package information from the Ubuntu repository, and now we see the installation of MySQL. But what's this? I see MySQL Server 5.5, and the title of the video said that we'd be installing MySQL 5.7. So what happened? Well, those default Ubuntu 14.04 repositories only include MySQL 5.5. To install the latest stable version of MySQL, we'll need to use MySQL's own official repositories. So we're going to go back and add some sophistication to our provisioning script. Let's first find the URL for MySQL's official Ubuntu repository. We can do this easily using Google's help. We'll type in MySQL official Ubuntu repository. The very first link there is what we're looking for. And at the bottom of this window, we see the Ubuntu debian.deb file name. We'll click download. On this screen, we don't actually have to log in or sign up. Here's a link that says, no thanks, just start my download, and if you'll see in the status bar that it's linking to that .deb file. Now we don't want to click that, we actually want to copy the link address. So we'll right click, copy the link address, and we can minimize our web browser here. Now we're going to open our provisioning script up in Atom. So the first thing we want to do, we want to drop down a couple lines under our non-interactive environment variable there, and we want to use the wget command to download that .deb file. And the next thing we're going to do is set some Debian configuration variables that will pre-populate the MySQL installer script. These do things like setting up which distribution to use, Ubuntu, which code name to use, trusty, and then most importantly, they will preset a root password for MySQL prior to MySQL installation. So I'm going to type these out. Bear with me here. MySQL apt config, then MySQL apt config again, /repo distro, and that's going to be select Ubuntu, and we're going to pipe that to debconf-get-selections. And then we're going to do something very similar in the next line, so we can copy and paste. We're going to do repo codename. Select trusty. And again, we pipe that to debconf-get-selections. Now we're going to select server. This will tell the installer which version of MySQL we want to install. It'll actually let you install 5.6 or 5.7 from this one repository. And then we get into some of the specifics here. MySQL community server, and then MySQL community server again. And here we're going to say root pass, and then password, and we're going to type a secure password in there, any secure password you like. And here, this is where we confirm that root password. Again, this is just passing these values into the Debian configuration installation script. And so that's all we need to get the installer the information it needs. The next thing we're going to do is actually add this repository to our list of available repositories. We're going to do that with dpackage, and we're just going to use that file name there, dpackage with the I flag and then the file name. And so, next, we're going to be making use of a very cool command line tool called Augeas. And we need to install Augeas right here alongside the MySQL server. It's Augeas tools for the package name there. And we're using Augeas because I like to make sure that MySQL is using UTF-8 encoding. Augeas lets us interact with configuration files like the my.cnf file as if they were like a tree hierarchy. We can set specific values in those config files pretty easily. So we're going to use the augtool command to set a value, and then we pass it /files and then a directory name. So etc MySQL my.cnf, that's our configuration file, and now we can specify specific parts of that file using this tool set. We're going to use the character set server UTF-8. That's going to set that value. We'll copy that, paste it, and now we're going to do collation server UTF-8 Unicode _CI. That looks good. And finally, at the bottom of this provisioning script, we are going to restart the MySQL database server. That should be it. The next thing we need to do is go back to our terminal after saving this provisioning script, and we are going to make sure that we're still in the to-do-app.com project folder, and we are going to do a vagrant destroy to shut down our Ubuntu virtual machine, and then we are going to do a vagrant up. And again, I will pause the recording and restart it when the interesting things are happening here. So here we're downloading that .deb file that tells how to use the installer, unpacking it, and what you don't see, it's actually setting those values. Here we're doing our apt-get update and pulling down all the package information. Now also pulling from the MySQL official repository. which was what we see at the bottom there, repo.mysql.com. And you'll see that it says MySQL Community Client and MySQL Community Server, and here we see MySQL 5.7. So this is where we're installing MySQL 5.7 and getting it all set up. And toward the bottom here, we're going to see in a couple seconds, saved one file and saved one file. That's where Augeas is making our changes to the my.cnf configuration file. To test things out, we can do a vagrant SSH to log into our Ubuntu server, and then we can type MySQL --user equals root --password equals the password we typed in earlier when we did our setup script. And when we log in there, we see server version 5.7.11. So this is how you can very easily create an automated setup script to install the latest stable version of MySQL in your development environment. So, as always, thank you for joining me today on this video adventure. If you liked this video and you want to see more like it, hit that subscribe button. You can find me, Nate, on Twitter and in various other corners of the internet with the username nthdesign. That's NTHDESIGN. Now, get out there and build something, maybe fix something, and make sure to have fun doing it.